All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Joe Papica. I'm the principal of the secondary schools here at Esperanza Cyber.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Justin Campos Rivera, soy la gerente de operaciones y el director de la escuela, Mr. Papica, Joe Papica.
Thank you. I'm here tonight representing the administrative team of Cyber. With my counterpart, Mr. Devlin, is the elementary principal, and he escorted some of you guys over here, and more that are still coming.
Tenemos otros principales, están aquí como un representante a los demás, a la escuela elementaria, secundaria y high school.
Okay, very good. Our topic tonight is Common Core state standards. So we'd like to take 10 minutes or so of your time. It's a relatively brief presentation to tell you a little bit about Common Core, what it means kind of at the national level, and also what it means as we get down to our level and then even closer down to the classroom level, and a little bit about how it affects your students in their day-to-day life. And then, of course, at the end of the slideshow, we'll wrap up by talking about how you can support your students in helping us implement these standards. So we'll get started.
Hoy vamos a hablar de lo que es, cuáles son los estándares Common Core, que es lo que usan a nivel nacional aquí, en todos los estados. Así que, por ejemplo, que no haya una escuela en Los Ángeles y una escuela acá, que todo esté anivelado. Y vamos a hablar de eso y cómo podemos ayudar a los estudiantes como padres para que superen en la escuela.
Okay. As we move into the actual bulk of the slideshow, I usually just offer a little bit of a summary and give you the opportunity to read some of what's on the screen. But I'm wondering if we should flip that. If you want, do you want to say something first about the slides in Spanish, and then I'll jump in? Yeah.
So, los estándares Common Core son establecidos grado por grado, son expectativas de aprendizaje para los estudiantes en los grados primarios hasta grado 2, para matemáticas y para las artes del lenguaje inglés y la alfabetización.
Thank you. So, Common Core standards were adopted about a decade or more ago at this point by the U.S. Governors Association. And the idea was that they were going to bring a little more continuity to standards across states, so that Pennsylvania and New Jersey and other states would have some similarity in their standards. You good or should I? Okay. All right, very good. So what it means for us is, I summarize it in two ways. The Common Core standards give us some transparency in that you, a community member, a parent, a student, could go to the Common Core website, commoncore.org. You can look up, it's all publicly available. You could look up literacy standards or math standards for your child. And then you and I, or you and the child's teacher, could get together and have a conversation about how we're meeting these legal standards for the minimums in the work that we do with your child. So it gives us some transparency for the work that we do with your students. You good? Okay.
Los estándares básicos comunes es algo transparente que nos deja a nosotros como una escuela y como padres ver cómo es lo que hacen, cómo aprenden los niños, qué es lo que están aprendiendo en las escuelas. Hay una website donde puede ir uno, donde tiene toda esa información, y ahí uno puede ver si usted tiene preguntas de qué es lo que los niños están aprendiendo en literatura o lo que están aprendiendo en matemáticas, y ahí tienen toda esa información donde ustedes pueden averiguar cómo es lo que están aprendiendo y cómo ayudarles también como padres.
Thank you. The other thing Common Core does for us is it gives us a sense of accountability both to our colleague schools and to the state of Pennsylvania. So it gives us a framework through which we can measure our own progress and ask ourselves as professionals, as administrators and as teachers, are we doing right by your children? And by framing the work we do within the Common Core, we can constantly ask that question and therefore constantly make our educational experience for your children better or improve your experience.
El Common Core hace también algo que nosotros como usamos como manera de tratar de poder, ¿cómo decir? Ah, measure. Medir, gracias, medir, cómo, si la manera que estamos enseñando nosotros es la manera que se enseña en la escuela, puede ser, o en el estado, a los mismos niveles a todos los niños. Entonces, eso es lo que nosotros usamos para ver cómo nos va y medirnos a nosotros mismos.
Thank you. All right, so what we're, we've talked about that already. Is there anything you want to say or you can cover?
No, I think that we
Okay. All right, let's move along since we already covered it. The rest of our presentation, we're going to talk about literacy and math at elementary, middle, and high school bands. And what you see up here now is the elementary and the middle for literacy. You want to talk about the slide? And then,
primaria, en la escuela primaria tenemos lectura de libros, cuentos, poemas, artículos de nivel de grado con fluidez, escriben cómo hablar bien, siguiendo las reglas de puntuación, gramática, lectura de libros, historias a nivel del grado con comprensión y fluidez, estableciendo también establecer una base de conocimiento a través de la lectura y escuchar de los libros y de historia, ciencias sociales, ciencias y otras materias, leer atentamente la evidencia de ficción y no ficción de nivel de grado para apoyar a un análisis que aprendemos a poder analizar lo que estamos leyendo según el material y también para desarrollar el vocabulario de buena calidad, de palabras complejas y sofisticadas y usarlas para hablar y escribir con mayor precisión.
thank you. When I look at literacy in the elementary and middle grades, I sum it up in two ways. At the elementary grades, as parents, you guys can and should expose your children to as much reading as you possibly can. There's a lot of educational research that says the more words they get, the more growth they experience. So books, reading, time away from their cell phone, that's the crux of the elementary reading experience. Let's engage them, let's show them that reading is worthwhile, and let's get them doing more reading. That's the challenge. Good. At the middle school level, we shift a little bit. In addition to just reading for engagement or reading for decoding or reading for fluency, we ask kids to start analyzing what they read and starting to make deeper meaning out of it. So we shift from just words and decoding to, for example, a rich vocabulary, the ability to start engaging with the world around them through literature. So that's middle school in a nutshell. Good?
Okay. En la escuela secundaria, ahí van aprendiendo como el trabajo que harán sus hijos en la escuela secundaria son adquirir habilidades para recopilar información, evaluar fuentes y citar materias con precisión, firmando y defendiendo reclamos, transmitiendo lo que él o ella entiende sobre qué es lo que han leído o están investigando, hablar de manera clara, apropiada, escuchar atentamente cuando se discute algo y las evidencias, añadir a las buenas ideas de otras mientras expresar sus propias ideas y entender y cómo expresar sus ideas y saber cómo pelear lo que tienen que decir.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to mathematics. I'll let you talk about the slide first.
Mathematics in
Elementary and middle.
Okay. So, en matemáticas en primaria van aprendiendo los niños cómo usar la comprensión de valor posicional para sumar y restar. Problemas de suma y resta son más difíciles. Medir longitudes para resolver problemas de palabras que involucran sumas y restas de longitud. En la escuela intermedia aprenden analizando y resolviendo problemas usando el concepto de razón y tasa, trabajando con variables y expresiones y analizando para resolver problemas de palabras usando ecuaciones.
Okay, thank you. To kind of summarize, in addition to what's on the screen, I would say at the elementary level, you should expect your students to be working on their basic foundational skills. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fractions, that kind of mathematical information, basic everyday math. Percentages also come to mind, ratios come to mind. But as they move into middle school, contrary to the educational system we had even just a few years ago, we're moving at a much faster pace in mathematics, which means where we used to not get algebraic concepts until high school, you should see this in the middle school level. So that means kids are solving for variables, kids are getting complex word problems, kids are getting multi-step problems that require them to think mathematically and work through multiple complex steps in order to come to a conclusion. Okay. Can we move on? All right. So at the high school level, a little bit different as it gets more complex.
En la escuela secundaria, ahí es donde yo creo que también ya dije de eso, pero ahí es donde aprenden a adquirir habilidades para recopilar información, evaluar lo que están leyendo, afirmando, defiando reclamos a nivel más alto, que sería de primaria, o, transmitiendo lo que ellos entienden, hablar de manera clara y apropiada, escuchar atentamente cuando discuten algo, evidencias y añadir a las buenas ideas de otras mientras expresan sus propias ideas. A nivel más alto.
Thank you. For me, at the high school level, I summarize it this way. As by the time they get out of high school, they are full-grown adults. At this point, when we're looking at literacy, we should be evaluating what we read, making meaning in what we read from the perspective of what does it mean to me as a citizen, right, in the 21st century? Does this inform my thinking? Does this change my thinking? Does this help me be a better person? Does this help me on my career path? Does this help me at my job? So, of course, we still read for enjoyment and we still read for pleasure. But at the high school level, you can read alternative points of view and you can disagree or agree with those points of view in a meaningful way in terms of literacy. Okay. All right, move on to math.
Okay. En las matemáticas, en las escuelas secundarias, los estudiantes van aprendiendo a usar coordenadas en álgebra y geometría, cómo dividir un problema complejo en partes y aplicar las matemáticas que él o ella conoce como problemas fuera de las matemáticas. El conocimiento para aprender matemáticas avanzadas y después de las secundarias, si él o ella elige hacer eso también. También las matemáticas es algo a nivel más de álgebra y a nivel más alto. Y cómo aprender a ver un problema y cómo está escrito y cómo poder tener la solución para eso.
All right, thank you. When I think about mathematics at the high school level, the same question always comes to mind. Parents and children often ask, why do I have to do algebra? Why do I have to do geometry? When in the rest of my life am I going to use algebra or geometry? And on the surface, that's a fair question. Like if you worked today before coming here, you probably were not asked to solve for X by your employer, right? It's usually not how the workplace goes. But when we talk about Common Core math, the idea is that we're teaching kids problem-solving skills that they can then go apply to real-world situations. So the answer when your child says, why do I have to do math? The answer is because we need you to think mathematically, to handle complex problems, and to come to solutions. That's the difference between a 21st century learner and someone maybe 50 or 70 years ago in the school system. So we're not trying to develop kids to go work on an assembly line. We're trying to develop kids who can then go out, take a job or go to school, be handed a problem by their employer or a problem by their professor, and then get to work solving that in a meaningful and productive way. that's the goal of mathematical thinking, much more so than solve for X or get the variable by itself. So it is a little bit different than even 10 or 15 years ago in schools. Okay. All right, that takes us through the Common Core part of the presentation. We're going to wrap up by talking a little bit about specifically some tips for how parents can help their children access Common Core or our teaching in general.
¿Cómo puedo ayudar a mi hijo? Vamos a hablar de maneras, qué es lo que se puede hacer con su hijo para ayudarle que le vaya bien en la escuela y con el Common Core. Es hacerles preguntas específicas a sus hijos sobre lo que leen, animar a los niños a leer, luego escribir, hablar sobre textos que son de ficción o no ficción, periódicos, revistas, bibliografías, animar a los niños a investigar temas de interés, leer series relacionadas con un tema central, ayudar a sus hijos a seguir a las instrucciones paso a paso o a una lista de instrucciones para realizar una tarea, ayudarles con su tarea, a cómo construir un castillo de arena o comprar un juego.
Thank you. For me, when it comes to literacy, I always try to flip the question so that the child has to give me an answer. So if anyone's ever asked their child, how was school today? And you get an answer like good or okay, or I can't remember, we challenge you to flip the question and make it one that the child has to answer specifically. So instead of saying, how was your day today? Say, what did you learn in math class? It's a different question and one that requires an answer. Instead of saying, did you do anything in English class today? You might say, what are you reading in English class today? And then follow up by asking, what did you learn about the protagonist today? Or what's the conclusion of the story? Or what's the theme of the story? So we ask, our families to support us by making sure that children are continuing that literacy discussion even after they leave English and social studies class for the day. And then lastly, we thought about math.
En matemáticas, lo que podemos hacer para ayudar a los estudiantes es practicar sumas, restas, multiplicaciones, divisiones, animar a los niños que no se sientan vencidos mientras resuelven un problema, aumentar su resistencia y desarrollar sus habilidades de pensamiento crítico, hacer que los niños expliquen y demuestren las matemáticas y que estaban pensando mentalmente y qué es lo que están pensando mentalmente y que lo discutan con una voz alta. También que aprendan a aplicar conocimientos de matemáticas a un escenario del mundo real en un hogar, como duplicar una receta o calcular la área de una habitación.
Okay. So I would sum up the math part of that by reminding everyone that, we're all mathematical thinkers, right? So if you ever find yourself, when your child comes home and says math is hard, if you find yourself agreeing, like, oh yeah, math was hard for me too, I challenge you to rethink that phrase and flip the conversation. We're all math thinkers. Every time you go to the store, every time you go to the gas station, we're all mathematical thinkers. So the next time your child says, I can't do this problem, say, let's do it together. We're all math thinkers. That's sort of a growing mission here at Esperanza. We can all do math. We can all get there. We can all achieve at Algebra 1. We can all get to the minimum test scores and all that kind of stuff. So next time you're agreeing with someone who says they don't like math, I challenge you, catch yourself, rephrase it, and I promise you'll see a change in your child's math progress as the two of you go down that road together. So that's Common Core and some tips. We do want to say thank you to everyone who's here. We also want to thank our YouTube constituents who joined us virtually this evening from the Esperanza community. At this time, we're about to release you to go visit your teachers who are across the hall waiting for you to talk about report cards and where the kids are at with their grades. The marking period ends Sunday, January 26th at 11:59. So if your child does not give you a fridge magnet worthy progress report tonight, you still have a few weeks to work on it and get it squared away. If there's anything I can do for you, if you have a secondary student, my information's up on the screen here. And my counterpart, Mr. Devlin, for any K-5 issues, we'd be happy to talk to you. Voice, text, email, all works. We're also very responsive to your children via Google Hangouts chat. So if you happen to also use that as a means of communication, you can look us up here at Esperanza just by putting our full name in there. So I thank you for coming, and we'll be around if you have any particular questions. But at this time, we're ready to go back across the hall. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Si necesitan que hablar o ayuda, por favor, aquí están los números del director de las escuelas y pueden tomarle foto a cualquier minuto cuando ustedes quieran y llamar a alguien para que les ayuden con una pregunta o si los niños no les va bien, a cómo ayudarlos.
Thank you. We all fly?